Imagine what life was like for settlers on the American frontier, long before SNAP, food stamps, or EBT cards existed. When the nearest town was days away and your only food might come from what you could grow, hunt, or barter, survival was a daily challenge. These frontier families had no government safety net, just community ties and resourcefulness. Government food aid as we know it today didn't exist in those pioneering days. Yet settlers helped each other through informal networks, sharing crops, trading goods, and supporting neighbors struck by bad harvests or harsh winters. Mutual aid saved lives when empty cupboards meant real danger. The first official rations arrived with the U.S. Army. Soldiers stationed across the frontier received basic staples like salted pork, hardtack crackers, beans, and coffee. These rations kept armies functioning, but also marked the earliest government-controlled food distribution. Settlers sometimes traded with these forts to access critical supplies. As settlements grew into towns, trading posts became centers of supply. Merchants operated on credit. Settlers obtained goods in exchange for future crops, livestock, or labor. This informal bartering was a precursor to modern food assistance, relying on trust and community bonds. Hardships like drought, bad harvests, and winter threatened food security constantly. Women, children, and new immigrants faced the highest risks. Relief came from church charity, aid societies, and occasional government efforts during crises such as the Civil War. Urbanization in the late 19th century amplified poverty and food insecurity. Private charities, soup kitchens, and settlement houses expanded to fill the growing need. But no national program existed yet to solve hunger systematically. The Great Depression changed everything. Widespread unemployment and poverty demanded federal intervention. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration launched the first large-scale food relief programs. The food stamp program started in 1939, aiming to help low-income Americans afford nutritious food. These early programs evolved over decades, expanding and becoming entitlement-based. In the 1960s, food stamps became official federal policy. By the 1990s, electronic benefit transfer cards replaced paper stamps, creating today's SNAP/EBT system. Each step reflected lessons from history and the ongoing fight against hunger in America. From pioneer bartering and army rations to modern government aid, the evolution teaches us how social safety nets grow when people come together. Have you ever thought about how communities survived hunger long before modern assistance? What frontier lessons about resilience and mutual aid still matter today? Share your thoughts below. Your insights enrich this ongoing story. The Great Depression brought hunger to millions and forced America to rethink its responsibility to the hungry. By 1933, unemployment reached nearly 25%, families lost their homes, and bread lines stretched for blocks in major cities. Private charities, soup kitchens, and religious groups tried to fill the gap, but they couldn't keep up with the overwhelming need. Even notorious gangster Al Capone opened a soup kitchen in Chicago that served 120,000 meals by December 1931, doing more to feed the poor than many government officials at the time. But charity alone couldn't solve a nationwide crisis. President Franklin D. Roosevelt understood that hunger required federal intervention on a massive scale. In 1933, he created the Federal Surplus Commodities Corporation as part of his New Deal. The program bought surplus crops from struggling farmers and distributed them to families with low incomes, including thousands of Black Floridians receiving unemployment relief. Foods like lard, flour, cereal, butter, canned beef, and pork showed up on front doorsteps or at local distribution centers. By December 1933, federal officials noted a sharp decline in malnutrition across rural Florida communities. The relief was immediate and life-saving. But the program had flaws. Families received whatever was available, with little control over what showed up, making it hard to prepare culturally appropriate or balanced meals. Still, it proved that government food aid could work on a national scale. Then came the innovation that changed everything: food stamps. In 1939, the first food stamp program launched under the leadership of Secretary of Agriculture Henry Wallace and Administrator Milo Perkins. The system was ingenious. People on relief could buy orange stamps equal to their normal food spending, and for every dollar spent, they received 50 cents worth of blue stamps. Orange stamps bought any food, while blue stamps were restricted to surplus items designated by the Department of Agriculture. This early program helped millions during the late Depression years, but ended in 1943 as World War II brought full employment and reduced the need for relief. Food stamps disappeared for nearly 2 decades. Hunger didn't. By the early 1960s, poverty and malnutrition still plagued many American communities, especially in rural areas and inner cities. President John F. Kennedy launched pilot food stamp programs between 1961 and 1964 to test whether the concept still worked. Unlike the 1939 version, these pilots no longer required purchasing surplus goods, making them more flexible and effective. The results were so compelling that Congress passed the Food Stamp Act of 1964, making the program permanent. The stated goals were strengthening the agricultural economy and improving nutrition among low-income households. But the real purpose was bringing the program under congressional control and codifying the rules into law. Growth exploded through the 1970s as participation expanded and federal eligibility standards replaced inconsistent state rules. By 1974, every jurisdiction in America had to offer food stamps. The Food and Agriculture Act of 1977 brought sweeping reforms, balancing access for those in need with tighter accountability and fraud prevention. This era established nutrition education grants, allowed electronic benefit transfer as an issuance option, and set the framework for the modern system. In 2008, President George W. Bush officially renamed the program the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to reduce stigma and modernize its image. Paper coupons were eliminated entirely, replaced by EBT cards that function like debit cards at the register. By 2013, SNAP reached a record 47.6 million participants as the Great Recession swelled the rolls and states sought federal dollars to stimulate their economies. From frontier bartering to army rations, from Depression-era soup kitchens to modern EBT cards, the evolution of American food aid reflects our growing understanding that no one should go hungry in the wealthiest nation on earth. Each reform built on lessons learned from previous efforts, expanding access while tightening accountability. Think about your own experience. Have you or someone you know ever relied on food assistance during tough times? What do you think works best about today's SNAP program, and what still needs fixing? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation going, because food security affects all of us. If you're finding this history eye-opening and want to see how frontier lessons apply to modern finance and survival strategies, hit that subscribe button now. There's a lot more to uncover. The transition from paper food stamps to electronic benefits wasn't just about convenience. It was about survival, dignity, and fighting fraud. For decades, families using food stamps had to deal with physical coupons that looked like play money and felt like public shame every time they pulled them out at the grocery store checkout. The stigma was real and intentional, designed to make recipients feel judged. But those paper stamps also created massive opportunities for fraud. People traded them for cash, sold them on the black market, or counterfeited them outright. In the 1990s, nearly 4% of food stamp benefits were trafficked illegally. That's when electronic benefit transfer, or EBT, changed everything. EBT cards were first introduced in the 1980s as pilot programs, but nationwide adoption took years. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, paper coupons were phased out entirely, replaced by cards that looked and functioned like regular debit cards. Recipients could swipe their cards at authorized retailers, and the transaction created an electronic record that made fraud much easier to detect. Trafficking rates dropped from nearly 4% down to just 1% after EBT was fully implemented. The technology brought dignity back to food assistance. No more pulling out colorful coupons in front of judgmental cashiers. EBT cards also opened doors to broader program reforms and expansion. In 1971, national eligibility standards replaced inconsistent state rules, ensuring fair access across the country. By 1974, every jurisdiction in America was required to offer food stamps. The 1977 reforms balanced access with accountability, introducing nutrition education grants and setting the framework for modern SNAP. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Congress tightened requirements, adding work mandates for able-bodied adults without dependents and restricting immigrant eligibility. But the 2000s brought a shift back toward expansion and modernization. The 2002 Farm Bill restored eligibility for certain elderly, disabled, and child immigrants and increased employment and training funds. The 2008 Farm Bill was a game changer. It increased benefits, indexed asset limits to inflation, and excluded combat pay and retirement accounts from eligibility calculations. Benefits were augmented for most households on October 1, 2008, due to increases in the minimum benefit and standard deduction. Then came the Great Recession. SNAP enrollment skyrocketed as unemployment surged and families lost income. By December 2012, participation reached a record 47 million people. The program became a critical economic stabilizer, not just feeding families, but also injecting federal dollars into local economies through food purchases. As the economy recovered, enrollment declined, but modernization efforts continued. States expanded online purchasing options, allowing recipients to buy groceries for home delivery. Mobile access to SNAP benefits was piloted, making it easier for recipients to check balances and manage accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic brought another surge in need and the largest benefit increase in U.S. food stamp history. Benefits rose by upwards of 25% to help families offset rising food costs and economic disruption. In 2024, the eligibility age for able-bodied adults without dependents expanded to include those aged 54 or older, recognizing the challenges faced by older workers in uncertain economies. Today, SNAP serves an average of 42.4 million people in 22.7 million households as of 2025. But even with all these advancements, fraud remains a threat. Since 2023, over $94 million has been stolen from SNAP beneficiaries through skimming devices that copy EBT card information. That's why states are now transitioning to chip-enabled EBT cards, technology that's much harder to copy or clone. California and Oklahoma are leading the way, becoming the first states to roll out EBT chip cards in 2025. This shift represents the next frontier in protecting vulnerable families from theft and ensuring benefits reach those who need them most. From frontier bartering to army rations, from paper coupons to electronic cards, and now to chip technology, each step has been driven by the need to feed people efficiently, fairly, and with dignity. Have you noticed the shift to EBT cards making a difference in how people are treated at the checkout line? Do you think chip cards will solve the fraud problem, or will criminals just find new ways to steal benefits? Drop your thoughts below. This conversation matters because food security impacts entire communities. SNAP isn't just about feeding families. It's one of the most powerful economic engines in America, pumping billions into local communities every year. Every dollar spent on SNAP generates $1.54 in economic activity, meaning federal food assistance creates jobs, supports small businesses, and keeps entire neighborhoods afloat. When recipients spend their benefits at grocery stores, farmers markets, and corner bodegas, that money circulates through the local economy, paying employee wages, stocking shelves, and supporting farms. In fact, every $1 billion in SNAP benefits creates between 8,900 and 17,900 full-time jobs and generates $340 million in farm production. Rural areas benefit even more. From 2009 to 2014, SNAP outlays increased rural industry output by 1.25% compared to 0.53% in urban areas. The program also increased rural employment and household incomes at higher rates than in cities. For small grocers and neighborhood stores, SNAP purchases can account for up to half of their monthly revenue. Lose that, and you're looking at closures, layoffs, and reduced access to fresh food in vulnerable communities. But beyond economics, SNAP delivers measurable health improvements. Studies show that children and families receiving SNAP are significantly more likely to be classified as healthy compared to eligible families who don't participate. SNAP participation reduces overall household food insecurity by about 17% and very low food security by 19%. For children specifically, food insecurity drops by roughly 33% after their families receive benefits for about 6 months. That's not just statistics. Those are kids showing up to school ready to learn instead of distracted by hunger. Yet despite these proven benefits, the program faces constant political threats. In 2025, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act proposed cutting SNAP funding by nearly $186 billion, the largest cut in American history. Many states are contemplating eliminating SNAP entirely due to rising costs and potential reductions in federal funding. Kate McKenzie, executive director of New York City's Mayor's Office of Food Policy, warns that for countless families, SNAP determines the difference between putting meals on the table and a mother going without food so her children can eat. Cuts to SNAP ripple outward, hitting other programs too. About 80% of people enrolled in the Women, Infants, and Children program also participate in SNAP, meaning SNAP cuts directly reduce WIC eligibility. These vulnerable populations rely on expensive items like infant formula to meet nutritional needs, and eliminating support could significantly limit access. The 2025 government shutdown brought these risks into sharp focus. CalFresh benefits were delayed in November, placing additional strain on families already struggling to make ends meet. Local nonprofits braced for unprecedented surges in demand as people turned to food banks to fill the gap. Even when benefits are retroactively issued after a shutdown ends, the immediate period creates uncertainty and real hardship. Policy experts emphasize that nothing can fully replace federal nutrition programs, but communities are mobilizing to mitigate the damage. Some are updating outdated database technology, reducing wait times at food banks, and promoting awareness around school lunch programs and accessible meals. SNAP incentive programs, which match benefits for purchasing fruits and vegetables, have become powerful tools for promoting nutrition while boosting local economies. These programs increase spending at grocery stores and farmers markets, generating even more economic activity. Pairing food distribution with education, like providing fresh produce alongside gardening kits and cooking resources, increases both access and agency for families. While these strategies can't erase the harm of federal cuts, they demonstrate what's possible when communities lead the way. From frontier mutual aid to modern federal programs, America's approach to food assistance has always balanced compassion with economic pragmatism. SNAP proves that investing in the hungry isn't charity. It's smart policy that pays dividends across the entire economy. Think about your own community. Have you noticed small grocers or farmers markets that depend on SNAP customers? What would happen to your neighborhood if those benefits disappeared overnight? Share your observations below. This conversation matters because food security and local economies are inseparable. The future of food assistance in America sits at a crossroads between expansion and restriction, between community empowerment and federal cuts. In 2025, sweeping changes to SNAP under H.R. 1 reshaped who qualifies, how benefits are distributed, and who bears the cost. Work requirements expanded dramatically, raising the age cap for able-bodied adults without dependents from 54 to 64, removing exemptions for homeless individuals and veterans, and restricting dependency exceptions to children under 14. These changes meant that starting November 1, 2025, anyone between 18 and 64 without a dependent child under 14 must meet work or training requirements or lose benefits by December. Immigrant eligibility was slashed. Refugees, asylees, and trafficking survivors who've been eligible for decades were suddenly cut off. As of July 4, 2025, only U.S. citizens, nationals, lawful permanent residents, Cuban and Haitian entrants, and Compact of Free Association migrants remain eligible. States scrambled to implement these changes with insufficient federal guidance and tight timelines. Illinois estimated it would need hundreds of new staff and multi-million-dollar investments in technology just to administer the new rules. Cost shifting from federal to state governments added financial pressure, with states now bearing portions of SNAP costs tied to their error rates. Approximately 4 million people will lose some or all of their benefits once these changes are fully implemented. The economic ripple effects will hit rural communities, small grocers, and local farmers hard, reversing years of progress. Yet amid these federal cuts, innovative community-driven models offer hope. Cash-based transfers have emerged as a powerful alternative to traditional food aid, giving recipients vouchers or cash to purchase food locally. This approach stimulates local economies, supports small-scale farmers, and fosters community cohesion. Recipients gain dignity and choice, buying culturally appropriate food while injecting money directly into neighborhood businesses. Project-based food assistance programs bridge the gap between short-term relief and long-term self-sufficiency. These initiatives last 3 to 5 years, providing consistent food supplies while empowering communities to develop sustainable solutions. Local committees of pastors, teachers, and farmers lead the work, people who know their communities best. The goal isn't perpetual dependency, but building resilience and economic opportunity. Farmers markets accepting SNAP incentives double the purchasing power of benefits when spent on fresh produce, boosting nutrition while supporting local agriculture. Market managers receive training to administer food access programs, fostering community connections within and beyond the market. These grassroots collaborative governance models show how local innovation can fill gaps left by federal policy. Balancing aid with local market support remains critical. Importing large quantities of food can disrupt local agriculture and undermine long-term resilience. Instead, integrating agricultural and livelihood support into food aid programs empowers communities to produce their own food sustainably. Training on sustainable farming, access to improved seeds and tools, and support for irrigation systems help communities increase productivity and income. The lessons from the frontier still apply today. Survival depends on mutual aid, resourcefulness, and communities taking care of their own. Pioneer settlers didn't wait for distant governments to solve their problems. They built networks of support that kept everyone fed. Modern food assistance works best when it mirrors that spirit, combining federal resources with local leadership and innovation. From rations and bartering to paper stamps and EBT cards, America's approach to food aid has always evolved in response to real human need. The question now is whether we'll continue expanding access and dignity or retreat into restriction and scarcity. What role do you think local communities should play in feeding their own people? Should it be mostly federal, mostly local, or a partnership? Have you seen successful community food programs in your area that could be models for others? Drop your thoughts below, because the future of food security depends on what we're willing to fight for today. If you've been following this journey from frontier survival to modern policy and want more deep dives into how history shapes our economic future, hit that subscribe button now. There's plenty more to explore together.